welcome to Kasha's Sewing and Fashion Center. My name is Brenda Holtz, and I'm here today to share with you Sewism number 14 of things you will not get in a sewing class. And that Sewism is the 5 basic things you need to know in order to get a quality garment. Now, sometimes when we take on a new project, it doesn't always look like the pattern or the picture on the pattern that we selected for this particular project. And it could have a numerous amount of things that possibly did not take place when you first bought your pattern or your fabric. But I want to give you 5 basic things that you can do to help you get a quality garment from the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to start with number 1, cutting. Cutting is so vital to do when you are preparing your pattern for sewing. Precision is the key. Now, if you're still cutting with scissors, you can still get precision. I know that a lot of sewists are using the rotary cutter, because I use the rotary cutter too, because I can get a cleaner edge. But you can also get a cleaner edge when you're cutting with scissors if you know how to cut. So if you're not sure how to do that and you're still getting really jagged edges, I suggest you watch my YouTube video on cutting tools, because I go over all the cutting tools and how you can use them to your advantage. So you can check that out as well. But cutting is very important, because sometimes you can cut your garment a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be, or a little bit smaller if you're cutting underneath your pattern. So and it doesn't seem like it make a big difference, but sometimes if you're working with a fitted garment, sometimes that little extra that you cut in there, if you didn't do it on purpose, could make a difference in the fit. Because if you cut that garment maybe like a 1/4 inch in the front, a 1/4 inch in the back, that's a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch, so that's 1 inch. You've increased that garment by 1 inch. So be precise in your cutting, because it really does make a difference. Number 2, marking. Make sure before you take your pattern off your garment that you mark it. Make sure you have covered all of the areas that need to be marked, because on your patterns you may have like little notches, the little triangle wedges on your pattern. Sometimes they put them on there, sometimes they don't. And you have circles and dots. So you need to make sure you're marking all of the areas that need to be matched up with something else, okay? And another thing is, if your fabric is a solid color and it looks the same on both sides, you also need to make a mark or something, or a piece of tape, whatever, to mark the wrong sides of your garment. So when you're sewing it, you don't sew the wrong side and the right side and get on the right side, you'll get a wrong side and the right side, and they don't match up. So I suggest that you pay attention to those little things too, because they really do make a difference. Mark everything, because if you sew it up wrong because you don't think it makes a difference, you're going to end up ripping, okay? Number 3, straight stitching. Straight stitching is so important, okay? Because your garment will lay a lot better, because if you're stitching, your seams are wiggly, crooked lines, there's no way you can press those out and make your garment look professional. So you need to learn how to sew straight. Now, with my students, I always start them off with a seam guide. Now, this is a magnetic seam guide, and it sticks to your throat plate, and you can line it up whatever seam allowance you want to make, and then line the edge of your garment or the seam that you're sewing right up to the edge of this, and it will give you a straight seam allowance every time. Now, if you're sewing and it pulls away, your seams are getting smaller. If it curls up against the edge of the seam allowance, then your seams are getting bigger. Now, there's a lot of magnetic seam guides and seams out there on the market. Now, this one will help you prevent the rolling up or the sliding away, probably more so rolling up. because you don't want that seam to roll up on the edge of that seam guide, because you know that your seams are getting bigger. Now, if you don't have a seam guide and you need to do some sewing, masking tape works really good. And most machines come with a a long arm or a seam or a long arm guide. You can also use that to help your sewing your straight stitches, make them correctly sewn at the right amount, because you want, if you start at a 1/2 inch, you want to make sure that it's a 1/2 inch when you finish. Okay, another thing, number 4, is ironing and pressing. Now, most people think ironing and pressing is basically the same thing, but it really isn't when it comes to sewing. Ironing is this motion here when you're going back and forth, because you're trying to get the wrinkles out and you cover a bigger area. But when you're pressing, you're just holding the iron down to heat in a certain area. Like if you're ironing on interfacing, you should not be ironing it. You should be pressing it so that the steam will melt the glue on the interfacing and get it onto your pattern piece, your garment piece, so that it would adhere to it without having to smear the glue that's on the interfacing into your garment. So there's a difference, and it does make a difference. Also, you can use ironing for molding and shaping. A lot of times tailors would use more ironing than pressing. They do both, and you'll know what you need to do once you get into your garment, whether you need to iron or press. But it is critical. Do not wait till you finish your garment to press it, because it's going to be very difficult to do, because there are places in that garment that you won't be able to get to once you finish it. So press as you go. That is very, very important. So number 5, I suggest that you finish your seams in some way, because most fabrics have a tendency to ravel a lot. And of course, you can make your garment up without putting any type of seam finisher on it, and it'll look good for a while. But as soon as you wash it, if it's a very ravelly fabric, as soon as you wash it, it's going to ravel some more, and eventually it will ravel down to your stitches. So I suggest you do something to avoid the raveling all the way down to your stitching. So if you have a serger, I say go ahead and serge it. If you don't have a serger, you can use some stitches on your sewing machine. You can use the zigzag stitch. You can also use some of the stretch stitches that go back and forth. They create some nice stitches also to prevent your fabric from raveling all the way down to the stitching. So use one of those if you don't have a serger, and do it before you wear the garment as you sew it, because again, it's going to be really hard to go in there and try to finish all those seams once you get the garment sewn up. So sew your seams, press them, and then do your seam finishes, and then move on to the next part of your sewing. So that is the 5 tips that I have in terms of getting a quality garment. Of course, there are more ways that you can do this, but these are my 5 tips. But stay tuned for on my channel so that you can get more tips on how to create quality garments as you sew, and things you just don't even think about. Just think about those things. They give you knowledge and wisdom, so that would make your sewing journey a whole lot easier. You do a lot less ripping and a lot less stressing, and that is my goal, to get you to sew amazing. Okay, so that is all I have for you today.